everybody, it's Sue Scott of the Back 10 Feet, and today I just had to share this amazing home landscape with all of you. I'm going to be introducing you shortly to the homeowner, but I just wanted to get a little brief look, and we'll be talking and walking and talking some more about this beautiful landscape and how it came to be. And right now I want to introduce you to Jahna Cook. Jahna, thanks for having us today.
Hi Sue, thanks for coming out.
Well, thanks. I'm going to immediately switch over to looking at more of your landscape.
Sure.
As you tell us about it. When did you start this? Because this looks like a landscape that's been in business for many, many, many years.
Yeah, well, I think with the COVID shutdown last year, I got a lot done that I was kind of on my 5-year plan, was concise down into 1 year. But we moved here June of 2019, and the house itself was needing a lot of updating. It had been a rental, and the landscaping also needed a overhaul. There wasn't too much. There were some peonies, and then these two
Looks like Joe Pye weed.
well, this guy is, I put that guy in, but these two,
Oh, yes.
what are they called? It's escaping me right
I forget
now.
too, but I recognize that Joe Pye weed. I love that.
Yes. These are spirea. Those were
Okay.
here. And then pretty much everything else except for a handful of hostas I put in and carved out the beds and put in the granite cobbles around the edging.
And that's really cool. So where did you get those from?
I got them, I think it's called Midwest Rocks. It's over off of PD in Fitchburg.
So for those folks who aren't sure, we're actually in Madison, Wisconsin. So there are places you can get that kind of material to add to your own home garden. But what I really like, as we came in, you have very little yard left, or very little turf grass.
Yeah.
But I like how you've used it as a pathway.
Yeah, well, we have 2 little kids, and they still like to run around and have some space to stretch their legs, and so we kind of use this as like it's almost looks like a waterway kind of coming down, like
It does.
like a flowing river through the bed, which is kind of nice. We're at a little bit of a hill here, and so it kind of guides your eye down the landscape.
It really does. And the other thing I like about using your turf grass that was already here, you're not wasting anything. And by using it as actually part of your softscape, you're helping to let water go down into the ground and filtrate back to the water table, which helps with flooding in this area. So
yeah,
you're really helping with that.
With the turf that I did take out, we have a composting station at the back, and so I was able to flip all that over and do a lot of composting with it. So most of it was kept on site, although we did take out a lot of turf, so it was kind of logistically hard to compost it all.
But you saved a lot of it. That's really great. And I like how you've put in, I see little pieces that are designed to hold water for birds and insects, also sporadic through your landscape. I really like that.
Yeah, yep. It's a busy place for pollinators in the summer. I mean, it's like last year,
even now.
I had a lot of zinnias that I planted as like some of my perennial flowers are coming up. I kind of like to fill in everything with the annuals. And so last year it was super heavy on the zinnias, and I kid you not, it was like you looked out and it was just a sea of like fluttering bumblebees and butterflies, and this year the cosmos kind of dominated.
Yeah, but they're beautiful.
Thanks.
But I also appreciate the fact, oh, here's water coming off the roof and right down into the turf grass, which is a great way to manage the water in your landscape. That's perfect. But I have to say, I love how you've incorporated some natives into your landscape too. That's really great.
For sure.
I guess I'm gonna lead the way here. We're gonna go down this path.
Down the path, we have blueberries off to the right here. So in the backyard, I tried to do more sustainable food forest. So incorporating things that are beautiful, but also provide us with some nourishment that the kids can like learn where food comes from.
That's awesome.
Behind you here, we have our lilacs, and they're coming through okay, but we also have a pumpkin vine coming along the property line here, which is fun. There's a few ripe pumpkins coming along.
Oh my gosh.
It's like a little treasure hunt.
It is. And for those of you who don't know, pumpkin is part of the three sisters that Native Americans have used as part of their agriculture in the Americas for thousands of years.
Right.
The pumpkin, the bean, and the corn.
Yeah.
And what's neat about pumpkin, see the size of those leaves, folks? That helps keep your weeds out. Oh, look, and there's a beautiful pumpkin. And there's another one. But yeah, these, everything has a purpose. And it seems like in this landscape, you're utilizing all these plants really, really well.
Yeah, these canna lilies were fun for the hummingbirds. They really enjoyed those this year.
I bet.
The squash, I tried to do the three sisters here. Unfortunately, the beans the chipmunks really liked. So I just had a few beans come through intermittently here. And then the squash definitely dominated this year. It overtook the path, and the corn didn't come up. So
well, but you were willing to try.
Yeah.
Things don't always work the way we want, but hopefully we learn.
I have heard that gardeners start planting their garden as soon as everything starts growing. You start plotting next year's garden.
Exactly.
And it's really been true for me.
Look at that. And I like this mini retaining wall you put in.
Well, this was here, but guess what? The property was so overgrown and so abandoned that we didn't even know it was here.
Oh, wow.
And so I unearthed, ripped out all the invasive species, and we have a lot of creeping bellflower.
Oh, yeah.
Which is very difficult to deal with, especially in the retaining wall. I had to take rocks out and try to
get to the roots.
The roots are have you seen those?
Yeah,
they're
big,
amazing.
Long
tubers.
It's a very durable plant.
Yes.
Not to be confused with standing bellflower, which is a native plant. So, and that's where it all gets kind of confusing sometimes. You can have a native and an invasive exotic that look very, very similar.
Yeah, and even I get kind of triggered by my hostas when they're blooming. I'm like, oh, is it creeping bellflower?
Oh, I know the flower. Yeah.
Yeah.
And let me come around so we can see against the sun. Who is this specimen right here?
Macintosh apple.
Oh, great!
So,
apples do well here, don't they?
I am hoping so. I don't use any pesticides or sprays, and so I'm kind of wondering how that's gonna go. And you can see this has a little bit of rust on it.
Okay.
I've heard that, see that guy over there? He's a big juniper.
Oh, yeah.
So they share this rust fungus with service berries, pears, and apples. Guess what I planted? Service berry, pears, and apples. So I'm
oh my
a little bit curious on how that's actually gonna play out over the years, but
you're willing to try.
I'm willing to try, yeah.
I love it. And again, folks, look at this. There's just enough yard to play in for two people to walk abreast and to create pathways, but it doesn't dominate the landscape. And I really love that. And look at this. It looks like back here you have a she shed.
Yeah, well, we sometimes call it the Zen Den.
I like that even better.
Or just a studio. But yeah, it's nice. I use it mostly for yoga studio, and then doing some me time for my business, and
excellent.
Pretty well, yeah.
Look at all the flowers. Gosh, folks, this is just so amazing. And how did you create this arbor?
So these are cattle panels. I had my parents go get them. They fold pretty well. You do need sort of a bigger vehicle or a trailer because the edging can be sharp. But they went and got them from Tractor Supply back in 2019. My dad thought I was crazy. He was like, what is she going to do with these? But we put them to good use. There's one here kind of dividing the patio and the garden space.
Okay.
And then we have the three arches here. But
I love it.
Planning on relocating these second set of arches, so it's just one big tunnel.
Oh, gotcha. That would be awesome.
Yeah, because it's been hard to get into the bed.
Yeah.
So it's, we were saying, you just adapt and change it up, but we've really enjoyed having that dimension to growing the vertical.
And I love your grapevine.
Small space,
And yeah, and this, folks, this provides a lot of food for a lot of wildlife. So, and
Yeah.
grapevine does extremely well here. So if you can utilize it, why not?
Yeah, this is a Concord grape, and we did get a few grapes off of it. I picked them too early because I really wanted to eat them and not let the animals eat them.
Oh, you
And
selfish human.
I think you're not supposed to technically pick them until after it frosts, right? Because then
I think
it's
so.
sweeter.
Something about
or,
winemaking, yeah.
Yeah.
Like
so
I
they
actually
were
know
pretty
that.
tart, but they were good.
Awesome. Can you walk us down this path and take a look at?
Yeah.
All right.
So we have a couple of like patty pan squash and some other gourds
Oh my
that got
gosh.
too big on the vine. They kept growing. So now they're just going to be decoration for the fall.
Awesome.
And we have some kale and of course lots of tomatoes and herbs growing.
Gosh. Look at that.
This
Holy
is
cow.
time.
Look at the beans.
Yeah. And the hummingbirds loved these.
The flowers?
Yeah, this is called a
Awesome.
scarlet runner bean. And they get the foliage turns really pretty in the fall, and
Some
gives
beautiful
some nice
tomatoes.
food source.
Oh my gosh, those tomatoes are gorgeous.
Yeah, help
And
yourself if you want them.
well, it looks like herbs in between
Yeah, so I planted thyme in here, and so when you walk
Great.
on it, it kind of gives it a nice fragrance. And
between the tomatoes and the herbs, it smells so good here. Oh my gosh.
these are a Jerusalem artichoke.
Ooh, I've heard about
I
those.
will say, I tried to contain them in the raised beds, and they cannot be contained. They once you have them, you always have them. So they're a little bit invasive in my bed, but there's only, I think, 3 that made it.
Okay.
I did have chickens for a little while, so they planted all of this for me from last year.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
By like having just scraps, and then of course the soil was so
good.
lovely. But I will say that urban chickens that's a big project. And
I tried it too, and I
Yeah.
think because I wanted to give them more space to be out and about,
yeah.
and they would run around the backyard and then go in the neighbor's yard, go scratch there, and they were a lot of work, but because I didn't want to keep them contained in a tiny
Yeah.
coop. So
I think if I had more space, it would be something I would revisit.
Definitely.
But on this particular spot, it was
gotcha.
a little much. Do you want to go into the shed?
Yeah,
or you
let's
wanna
take a
keep
look.
Looking?
And I just want to point out, look, you have a play set for the kids as well, and now can I ask, how wide is this yacht? I mean, this lot.
I'm not even sure
50?
really of the specific dimensions.
Okay.
One thing we really liked about it when we looked at it is the potential for our own touches on it. You know, it
Right.
wasn't like there were a ton of mature trees that we had to work around. It was like we
Gotcha.
could kind of set everything up.
Well, I
how we
love it.
wanted
I just want to point out to everyone, this is not a big space, but look how much you've got in here. It's you've got a wonderland here, and you don't have to
It
leave home to enjoy it. Oh my gosh! And look at this. Oh, this is nice.
Yeah, so
Oh,
this
wow.
is a nice little spot. The kids enjoy coming out here, especially with COVID. We can open on the windows and not feel like we have to be inside our house all the time. We
That's
can
awesome.
have a little space to play. And
Beautiful. It gives people hopefully a lot of inspiration that you can take a small space like this and make it just this lovely little, like you say, a getaway.
yeah, definitely.
This way.
It's fun to just come out and look at the pollinators and watch the hummingbirds.
And again, I'll ask you again. So you don't use any pesticides, herbicides. You're not killing anything.
The only thing that this sumac up in the front by the patio had some fungus this spring.
Okay.
So I used some copper fungicide, but I was reassured that it was safe and
Gotcha.
not to be a problem. But that's the only thing I've ever used.
So you don't blanket spray for things.
No, And we have a lot of volunteers, so a lot of it was stuff that maybe got left on the vine last year, and we had, random tomatoes coming up. There's one on the patio I just let go that looks like it's fruiting pretty well.
Oh, good. And this is neat what you did with these pots here.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
those were a fine. I had basil in them. That's all kind of gone to seed now. But this is all, these are cylinder blocks. So you can garden
Oh,
within the
yeah.
cylinder containers.
I love that idea.
And surprisingly, I had an herb garden because my kids really love to just pull herbs off of the plants. And so a lot of them came back, and I was surprised in the small containers that are above ground. I thought that they would have such a hard freeze in our climate, but they came back, and a lot of the lettuces self-seeded, and so it kind of did its own thing this year without much direction for me.
That's amazing. And you would think with the cinder blocks being so alkaline that would be a problem.
Yeah,
but they
did fine. They're
They did.
happy. Everybody flowered, and
look at that.
yeah.
And who is this tree?
This is a red bud.
Oh.
Interestingly enough, you can eat the blossoms of a red bud.
I did not
you
know that.
Yeah,
No.
they're part of the legume family, and they get
that's
like
neat.
a kind of a pea pod for
Yeah.
their seeding. But yeah, I just discovered that, and they're kind of tasty. I don't know. Do you even just for like a novelty of like
awesome.
putting them on a salad or something?
And I noticed something else you've utilized here that I want to point out. These birch these birch sticks, trunks.
Yeah.
And they're it looks like a tree died back and you just decided to use it for something else.
Yeah, well, they say like one person's trash is another person's treasure.
Yeah.
A lot of the birch, actually all of the birch, the local mall was taking down their winter decorations.
Oh.
And I said, hey, what are you going to do with all those? And he was like, well, you want some? I usually take them and do some woodworking. And I was like, yeah, I'll take some.
Oh my gosh.
And
Look
so
at that.
we actually lived at a different apartment complex with like a big patio space. So I had used them kind of as like an erect fence that I could grow up.
Yeah, and you've used them
And
here.
so I used them here to kind of soften the edges of the wire.
It does, because you don't
Yeah.
even notice the wire. You just, and of course birch has beautiful bark.
In here, I couldn't figure out where all this sawdust was coming from. And it was a
look.
woodpecker making,
Look at
you know,
that.
taking advantage of the wood.
That's amazing. It's wonderful. And I think that's the other thing I noticed about your yard my first visit was it was so full of life.
Totally.
So full of
Yeah.
life. How can you not love that?
It's amazing how much is happening here,
look at
like
the
in
bees.
comparison to like the lot next door doesn't have too much going on, but I mean, it's like everywhere you look here, there is activity happening and life happening.
There is. And I think, and that's always been my strong message is please welcome wildlife into your urban and suburban lots.
Yeah, we had a couple of clutches of bunnies this spring, and that was so fun for the kids too, right? It's like
Yeah.
also educational for them
It
to
is.
be part of that community.
It is. And and again, I don't see any bird feeders because everything the birds need, the seeds and the insects, are all right here.
Yeah, they've been working the sunflowers pretty good, and you know, usually we put up a couple feeders in the winter time, but right now everybody's kind of working the landscape.
And as far as the flowers go, when the heads go dead and just go to seed, do you leave them in place for the birds?
Most of them I do. Over the years, I've collected quite a few seeds from the seasons gone by. And so I think I have a pretty good supply that I don't really need to harvest all of them. But
Gotcha.
yeah, the birds, especially the chickadees and the goldfinches, really
Oh,
love
yeah.
the
Walk
flower
down this
heads.
corner a little bit. And I think that's important. So I want to point out again to everybody that Jahna doesn't use harmful man-made chemicals. She lets things stand as they are. The birds, the bees, the butterflies, the insects are all welcome. And what's really cool is her kids get to come out and explore this.
Yeah.
And also get some human food while they're at it.
Totally.
That's
This
just
is
so amazing.
asparagus that's growing. So we planted this, and we haven't harvested any of it because it has to like bloom and go through its life for a
Like a
couple
cycle
of years.
before it-
I think it's like 3 years they recommend
I
before
thought I heard that too. Yeah, before you
So,
get anything.
Yes, we have
Oh
been
my
patiently
gosh.
waiting. This is our second year with it, and it's doing really good.
But it's pretty too. It
Yeah.
softens the landscape.
Oh, for sure.
And you've got, I mean, a lot, like you say, the zinnias, it's their year this year.
Yeah, they,
They're-
they
oh,
they do pretty well. We have an aronia kind of
oh, yay!
under this blanket of beans and
I have one too in my
morning
backyard.
glories. Oh,
Slow
nice.
growing, but it did produce berries this year. And I was
Awesome.
Aronia, for you folks who don't know, is a really cool plant here. Um, Native to Wisconsin and other areas of the Midwest, and the berries are supposed to be even better for you than blueberries.
Yeah, super high
But
antioxidants.
very tart.
Yeah, they're like a very strong dry wine.
But also the birds love it. So I plant for wildlife, and then if I get
For
something out of
sure.
it, so no big deal. But oh, I see
Yeah.
more Joe Pye weed again. One of my favorite natives up here. I just love it, which has gone to seed already. And I
Yeah.
just want y'all to see how pretty this is. Let's see if I can get in there for you. You can see. Let me refocus. But how's that doing? Oh, come on, focus. But I love it. It's just so. It's attractive, you know, in its own way.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful.
And is that a maple tree right there?
It is. It's a silver maple, which is technically a soft maple.
Right.
So I think it might get a new home out at my parents' place.
Okay.
Just because I'm a little bit concerned about the buildings and
Oh, yeah.
the long vitality of it.
Well, that's a
This
good
is
point.
another apple here.
Oh, nice.
One thing you might find interesting I did over here for my aronia is buried under here. But
Oh,
I
there it
put, these are just grocery store green onions that I planted from their roots.
Allium family. Do they help
Yeah.
the aronia in some way?
So the bunnies were eating the aronia berry in
Oh.
the spring. So I did like a little fortress of onions around it and it worked really well.
Now,
It's
see?
another natural way of pest
Exactly.
control or trying to live with the bunnies and encourage them to go
Exactly.
somewhere else.
Because there's no reason to get rid of everyone just because they're doing something. There's a way to fix it, so they leave some of your stuff alone.
Yeah.
And still coexist.
It's a balance.
It is. Well, this is
Definitely.
just so beautiful. And this is late September, folks, we're in. And this is what it looks like in south central Wisconsin. It ain't fall yet.
No.
It really isn't. And it's like 82 degrees today, so.
Yeah. We have a little pollinator house up there, a little bee
Oh,
house in
neat.
the peak. And we did have wrens in our little bird houses this year.
I
which
like
was
that.
Fun.
And that's something else to think about, folks, is we are getting warmer. Whether you want to believe it or not, it's happening. And it's happening here too. So what you've got is a really wonderful landscape that you can learn from and adapt as things change, you know?
It is very satisfying to me to think that this was all just bright sun, and now with some of the plant material that we have and some of the trees started, hey, we have a tiny bit of shade, and it is cooler when you
It
sit
is.
in that shade, and it really drives home. You know, trees are storing carbon for us, but they're also cooling us and
They
cooling the
are.
earth by
Transpiration.
providing that
And-
shade.
In fact, all these plants are where we're standing now feels very cool. It's just amazing the difference in temperature.
Yeah.
So, folks, as we move into a warmer climate, thinking about adding plants to create a cooler atmosphere around your home, it's good for the planet and it's good for you.
Definitely. We had a really successful strawberry patch here.
Oh, neat.
Right ahead. That was
take a look
did
at that.
awesome this
Oh, look at the
year.
leaves on those. My gosh. And there is a native strawberry that the commercial strawberry came from. It's native to Wisconsin.
Is it the alpine strawberry?
It's, oh gosh, no, but it's something else, but it has a very small fruit. I mean, it's pretty insignificant, but
we have a few of those, but I think they got crowded out.
yeah. But they send out runners. They don't clump
Oh,
as much as
sure.
the commercial does. But it's so great, again, that you've incorporated food crops into a beautiful flower garden. I mean, it
Yeah.
all fits in. It's just beautiful.
We had, yeah, I mean, and each season brings its own joys, right? So in the
Yes.
spring, we have different plants that come up, and it's always a treasure to see them in the spring. And then it kind of transitions into those hot, loving some midsummer plants.
Right.
And like this was completely filled with blue borage.
Oh
And
yeah, oh yeah. It loves
it
the
was
heat.
so happy. And now we don't see any of that. But it's
No.
just interesting how it cycles through and has different looks depending on where you're at in the summer season. And of course, now the squash is really
Oh yeah.
dominating.
But what's cool
But
is, like you say, by planting things together, kind of tight, whoever is benefiting from the season at that time comes up, and then the next one comes up. And by planting tight like this, folks, you also prevent the need for mulch, and it keeps plants you don't want out. So
yeah,
this is the new way to
barely have
plant
to
now.
weed. And
Yep,
some
plant
people,
tight.
some people ask, like, "Oh, do you spend a lot of time weeding?" I'm like,
No.
"No, I don't spend any time weeding, really."
This is amazing. Well, I just want to thank you so much for letting me take a tour with you today and being willing to record it so we can
Of
share it.
course, yeah.
It's a
It's exciting
wonderful.
anytime I get the chance to. You
Just spread
listen
the
to me
word.
about my plants? What?
Yeah, let me
Okay.
tell you about my plants. I rarely have pictures, of my own daughter in my wallet, but
Right.
lots of plants.
Lots of plants,
Lots of
yes.
plants. But I love them both dearly. And I also want to, just for full disclosure, folks, both of us are vaccinated. We're careful, and we've been careful with our time together. So I want you all to know that too.
Definitely.
We're still dealing with that. But again, working in your own yard is a great way to relieve stress. It's a great way to help the environment, to help urban and suburban wildlife. And to be perfectly honest, you don't have to pick a particular